Boros in the way you wouldn't expect it. It's a big R and a small W as opposed to the other way around.
A very small W. Splash in the main deck only for Chain of the Rocks. Oh, he's actually got, excuse me, I take that back, 2 Assemble Legion in his main deck as well. As you're going to see, Wijaya start off here with a Boros Elite, Boros Guildgate. On Bertorelli's side, he's got a mountain. Let's see what the 2-drop is going to be. It's going to be a Frostburn Weird to halt the aggression here.
Yeah, so in this matchup, generally a white aggro deck versus a red aggro deck is something that tends to favor a white aggro deck because their creatures, because of cards like Spear of Heliod or cards that scale into the late game much better than Boros. We may have seen this matchup turned on its head a little bit in this metagame because the white-black aggro deck's actually a smaller creature deck, and Boros has cards like Fanatic, so it might even be that red scales later into the game this time.
Yeah. As we see a Godless Shrine coming to play on tap here for Wijaya. 18 Precinct Captain going to pass the turn back. So Frostburn Weird's going to hold up the fort right now. We'll see if Bertorelli has anything interesting to do on his 3rd turn. Of course he has Boros Reckoner in his deck, but he's also got some removal and Chain of the Rocks and Mizium Mortars. And he's got a Singleton Hammer of Perforos to help towards that devotion count. So he's going to start by playing his 3rd land. He's going to follow up with Mizium Mortars to take care of the Precinct Captain right away. We'll see if he's going to attack or if he just wants to play the control route here. And he's considering attacking, and he is. So, across for 1, make it 2 is what Bertorelli is going to do.
So Bertorelli has changed his role assessment here. Despite the fact that he had this 1/4 blocker, he's decided to become aggressive against a Boros Elite deck.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting because what that's going to end up doing is making his Fanatics and his Stormbreath Dragons a whole lot better over the course of the game instead of playing defensively and trying to turn the corner. Don't know how well this is going to work out for him as Wijaya is going to attack for 1 and put Bertorelli down to 19, follow that up with an opposing Sovereign and pass the turn back, and that's actually probably going to slow the aggression down a little bit here.
Yeah, well, Sovereign will certainly put a stop to the aggression because of the cards you were talking about, Stormbreath Dragons, with, for example, Ash Zealots, cards that are very strong. Now, like, when aggressive draws will be a lot weaker here. We did see that Vidianto is also clear, like, representing a Brave the Elements pretty hard right now.
One of the best tricks into the format, really the card that makes these decks work. Bertorelli is going to start his turn off with a Burning Tree Emissary that's going to come into play tapped. So a red and green mana floating. And now, is he going to follow this up with a removal spell is the question.
Yeah, well, there is a Fanatic of Mogus hiding in Bertorelli's hand, so he's got to be more concerned with the defense right now. You know, he doesn't have to use the attack step too much to win.
Mortars are going to take down Sovereign. Brave the Elements does not exist, so he's going to attack for 1. He's going to make it 2. So Wijaya is going to move down to 14 and pass the turn back there. Now, he could have run into a Brave the Elements there, but, you know, maybe in a situation where he didn't mind if Brave the Elements got cast, as that's exactly the card that Wijaya draws for the turn.
Yeah, I think were it cast there, Bertorelli would be really fine with that trade. His hand is Fanatic of Mogus Stormbreath Dragon, so as soon as he gets 2 more lands, he has to figure that Vidianto's almost dead. That is 9 points of damage already, so he only needs to find 5 more.
Banisher Priest is going to come in. It's going to take care of Frostburn Weird. Boros Elite's going to get tough and get in there for 1 damage. Now, Banisher Priest is a card that's really starting to pick up in popularity, and I think one of the reasons that people are moving towards this deck is because that card is so good against mono blue devotion. It's kind of interesting because this card is, you know, it ranges from how good it can be. It can be great in certain matchups. It can be rather poor, blue-white, and that's why I'm looking at you, in others. You know, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think when Blake got really popular, a lot of players switched out their Banisher Priests for frontline medics in this deck. That said, I think the Banisher Priest is the card you have to play just because of how good it is in matchups like blue-white, like against the blue devotion deck. You'll lose a whole game to not having a Banisher Priest, whereas frontline medic never really has that level of impact. So, and I think correctly Vidianto has switched back to the Banisher Priests.
Orzhov Charm, one of the reasons to splash in this deck is just resolved on a Burning Tree Emissary. And now Mutavolt's going to get active, and into the red zone we go. We'll have a Boros Elite Battalion trigger, so an attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now all of a sudden Bertorelli is behind in this one as a 3rd Mutavolt's going to come into play. Because he's got no devotion, man.
Yeah, he's lost he's lost all his permanents here. A little unfortunate fortunately for Bertorelli, he's gotten stuck on lands this game, and he's going to lose most of his life total for it right now.
Yeah, and that's a pretty tough thing for his deck to do because he does have 25 lands, but he has not drawn a 4th one, and he has not drawn the most important one or was important. Nykthos, as you've seen, attack here for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bertorelli is going to go down to 2. Wijaya has left up a single white mana, and he actually has Brave the Elements this time. It looks like Bertorelli may have drawn a Burning Tree Emissary this turn, but it is too little, too late. He'll take us Frostburn, Weird back, and the rest of his permanents, as he is down a game. Vidianto Wijaya does win game number 1 here. White-Black Aggro up a game against Red-White Devotion.
Yeah, so what this really shows me in that matchup is that despite the fact that Red-White Devotion is not a pure aggro deck, like Vidianto's deck is, neither of these decks are very well equipped to play defense. If the game goes, there's kind of this rule of thumb you can say, whichever player stops attacking first probably loses.
Yep.
And that's still more or less true in this matchup. If Bertorelli's going to go for the plan of, make walls fly over with a dragon, he has to know that plan is certainly vulnerable to a lot of what Vidianto's deck can do. We saw that all it took was an Orzhov Charm and a Banisher Priest, and he was dead in 2 swings.
Yeah. Does not take much to turn the corner. As we'll take a look here at Bertorelli's sideboard first. He is going to that eagerly, so we'll start with him. He's got another Hammer of Porphyros to go with this one in his main deck. 2 Chandra Piremaster, 2 copies of Wear and Tear, 3 Burning Earth, 3 Anger of the Gods, a Porphyros, God of the Forge, 2 copies of Warleader's Helix, and an Aurelius Fury. A lot of interesting cards that we can roll down here, actually. 2 Chandra Piremaster. There's a healthy amount of 1 toughness creatures over there in the old white-black aggro deck, so I like that one. 2 copies of Wear and Tear. Targets for this in Wijaya's deck. He's got Spear of Heliod, but not much outside of that, so those will probably stay. But Anger of the Gods I like a lot, because if there is no Brave the Elements, it's just going to be a Wrath of God in this matchup.
Yeah, well, as we saw that he couldn't, Bertorelli couldn't play defense game 1, I'm not sure that that's still true game 2. If you have cards like Warleader's Helix, Anger of the Gods, Chandra's Pyromaster, it's very possible that you can actually become a defensive deck after board.
Well, it certainly won't hurt that he has access to Warleader's Helix as well to be able to kill a creature, gain 4 life back, and continue playing that defense before Stormbreath Dragon shows up. And the interesting one here for me, Matthias, is actually Aurelius Fury. Because, I mean, it's obviously a high-impact card when he has Nykthos and a bunch of Devotion, everything's going right. But, is this the matchup where you would really want this kind of card?
My guess is no. I think the Aurelius Fury, to me, seems like a weapon to use against green decks.
Okay.
You can, first of all, green decks tend to be ramp decks, so silencing them on 1 turn actually has some value. Just casting at their face, dealing 1. Also, with cards like Pelucranos or Arbor Colossus, tapping all their creatures is very valuable against a green deck. I don't think... The problem is that to make it a real sweeper against a white-black aggro deck, you probably need to cast it for X = 5, which is an amount of mana that I'm not excited to have to reach in a red-white deck.
Yeah. I mean, they can generate it, but it does take some work to get there.
It does take work to get there, and I think the hands where you can generate 6 mana, you have like equally game-winning plays that you can make.
Sure. Wijaya's side?
Well, Wijaya's sideboard is decent here. He can become also more of a control deck. He has access to, for example, 3 Doomblades, which he could be using against Bertorelli's deck. I think he wants to stay on the same game plan, but he wants to maybe make sure that he can push through any walls that Bertorelli might put up there. For example, Frostburn Weird was a card that was very good last game.
Yep.
A lot of his things, he has an extra Zathard Necromancer that could be used if he wanted, though there's not too much removal in Bertorelli's deck. Other cards are really for other matchups. He has, cards like Thoughtseize, Dark Betrayal, Sin Collector. Clearly not for this matchup.
Okay. So probably not too much changes on the white-black aggro side, but I think Bertorelli is going to shift his deck to being the control deck because I just don't think it really benefits him from trying to be the aggro deck in this particular matchup. He's got a lot of defensive tools. As we mentioned, Frostburn Weird, Boros, Reckoner, Stormbreath Dragon can be his corner turner, for lack of a better term. He's also got, again, Chain to the Rocks and Mizium Orders as well, and plenty of good sideboard cards. The question is, who does this matchup favor? Because I've seen it go a lot of different ways with Red-White Devotion against white-based aggro decks. Sometimes it looks impressive. Sometimes it fumbles around like we just saw in that last game.
Well, my general impression would be that it still favors the white aggro deck. I think just with the strategies that both decks are taking, I would rather be playing the white aggro side of it. I think they're both aggro decks, and in this matchup, the white deck gets to be the aggro deck more often.
Okay.
It really is the red deck that has to change its role.
Well, we'll see if they can change it. And so if you guys are just joining us at home, Cedric Phillips, Matthias Hunt, Star City Games Open Series here in Las Vegas, featuring the Invitational. We've got 3 days of Magic for you guys. We're in round 3 of 16 here at the Invitational. We're in the standard portion right now. After round 4, we'll move to the legacy portion for rounds 5 through 8, and then we'll call it quits for today. But we'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to bring you guys more coverage. We'll make our way to a top 8 of the Invitational. Then we'll cut into our standard open. That begins tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you're in the area. We'll make our way through that, get through the quarterfinals. We'll get just a little sleep, not too much.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back on Sunday morning for the finals of the last couple elimination rounds for our standard open. We'll crown a champion in the Invitational, and then we'll make our way through our legacy tournament before we crown a champion there. And that's it. Not too much. That's it.
No. Just a little bit of magic this weekend.
Yeah, just 3 tournaments worth of magic. No big deal. Also, we've made a ton of announcements today. If you guys weren't with us at the top of the broadcast, you can find the announcements made from our president, Pete Hoferling, on the homepage of the Star City Games website. We'll also be going over the changes that we made. We've announced Q2 schedule for the Open Series next year. We have announced our Player Series tokens for the first quarter of next year, our Players Championship for 2014. Magic is a good place to be right now, my friend.
Well, yeah, you have 2 premier circuits to play on at this point.
Yeah. It is awesome time to be playing Magic. Never my wildest dreams that I think we'd ever get here. But it's only getting bigger and better for the year 2014. As we start with temples on each side.
Yep, scrying from both sides. Bertorelli's got to be happy. This means it's not a triple 1-drop start.
Yeah. So, which temple are you the most excited about for the next set? You looking forward to the blue-white one?
Oh.
That's probably your speed.
I bet the blue-white temple's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
That seems I'd play that, you know.
Seems right
I'm
up
playing
your alley.
4 Azorius Guild Gates right now. The temple seems like it'd be
Trying
better.
to get an upgrade here? I don't understand. As here is a Soldier of the Pantheon from Wijaya past the turn back. A card that's actually not, it's fine in this matchup, but it's not as good in this matchup as it is in other ones because their removal is single colored.
Yeah, I mean, it actually does a really good job of getting by most of Philip's creatures.
Yeah, it does do that.
Ash Zealot excluded.
Yeah.
It's very good at that.
Yeah, it's funny because like it actually does a nice job against the creatures, but the removal, it just takes care of it pretty easily. Where when you're playing against a deck like Esper or something of that nature, where they have Azorius Charm and Attention Sphere and stuff, it doesn't actually take care of that. As we've got 3 mana being tapped here. Now there's a Hammer of Porphyros to provide a little bit of devotion here for Mr. Bertorelli.
Yeah, Hammer is a 2 of in the main deck. I'm a little interested that Bertorelli decided to keep it in this matchup because I feel like he's not typically the aggro deck here.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see that as well. Maybe he's just looking for a stable devotion enabler as Soldier of the Pantheon is going to come across here for 2, put Bertorelli down to 18, and now here's a Zathir Necromancer.
Yeah, there certainly is a consideration that when you're playing a deck that's based around devotion, you can only cut so many heavy devotion cards, and Hammer is one of them.
Yeah. So now Bertorelli looking for that 4th land still. He has an Ash Zealot in his hand that can provide some devotion. He also has a Boros Reckoner, but he just can't cast it yet. But he also has a Burning Tree Emissary, so we'll see if he tries to go that route first, and he is.
Yeah, he can go Emissary, activate Nykthos for 4 red, and then he can cast his Reckoner if he wants, chooses.
He's got a big card in his hand right now as well. He has a Chandra Pyromaster in his hand. Now Pyromaster
That's bigger right now.
That's interesting here because it would take care of the soldier, but then a zombie would come into play. So are you happy with that exchange is the question.
I think I'd rather have, while that's an awesome play, I think I'd rather have the Reckoner, and I like the line that Bertorelli's taken here. Once I make the Chandra, I would like to protect her.
Okay. Now, you see there that Wijaya pointed out the second life gain from the Reckoner. He missed the first one.
He missed the first one, so he only gained 1 there.
Man, I can't even count how many times I've missed there. When I'm not playing on Magic Online, I oftentimes miss the Soldier. I don't know why.
It's really hard to miss him on Moto.
Yeah, I don't know why I miss, but I always do. As Doomblade's going to take care of the Reckoner, so devotion count is a little bit lower, and now going to attack for 4 with the Necromancer and the Soldier. Will Wijaya, and you see Bertorelli actually considering a block here.
Well, I don't think he can actually block because of the amount of mana that Burning Tree Emissary is making for him right now. He'd be mana screwing himself by blocking.
Follow-up Soldier is going to show up and pass a turn back. Now, one card we didn't mention in Bertorelli's sideboard is 3 copies of Anger of the Gods.
Anger of the Gods. That's the first thing you think about right here, because without Anger, Wijaya's board is pretty hard to answer right now. Everything has a second life to it.
All right, so a Nykthos activation. 4 red mana in the pool. What's it going to be? He's got another Reckoner.
It's Reckoner or Pyromaster. I think I like what he's doing. He's going to run the Reckoner back here again. The scary thing is there's now 2 copies of Soldier of the Pantheon, so it's a 4-turn clock that Wijaya is representing, and you have to figure it's probably a little bit smaller than that.
But one of the things I actually like about this white-black aggro deck as opposed to the white-red version that has so much removal. So, you know, if something does show up like a Boros Reckoner that's in the way, and here's a Banisher Priest, something that the white-red deck could play, but they have Borzov Charm and they have Doomblade to get that problematic creature out of the way and just keep doing what this deck does best, which is turn the creature sideways.
I mean, how good was that Doomblade last turn, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Fantastic.
So now you see that Bertorelli's going to block, and it looks like he's going to put the Burning Tremor, in front of the Necromancer. I think he's saying, I need to draw Anger of the Gods to get back in this.
Yeah, well, if he drew Anger, he wouldn't matter whether or not he made this block.
That's true.
Anger would exile. However, one of the problems is if he takes all this damage, he'll drop to 8, which is 2 copies of Soldier of the Pantheon hitting. If he makes this trade, what it means is if he draws a land, he can use Chandra to take care of one of the soldiers.
Okay.
And I think that's what he's going to have to start drawing toward things like that. He needs to start getting resources off the table.
So there's the land. So that's a start. Mountain comes into play.
Right, so he has the option. He can kill a soldier thanks to Chandra. He does in hand appear to have a Mizium Mortar, so all he really has to do is survive to 6 mana.
Now this play's interesting here because he's going to just pass the turn back, so this is threatening a Hammer activation. Now Hammer, don't forget, it makes colorless Golems.
Right.
It does not make red Golems. And I think that's what he's actually going to try to do here is make a Golem token.
That's a line that I don't particularly like here because you just need your mana, so I don't think you can really afford to be sacking your lands.
So let's see.
You could have Aurelia's... No, Aurelia's Fury wouldn't do anything either.
Yeah, it's not very good right now either. Wijaya went to attack. Bertorelli said, 1 second. We're not quite there yet. So he says, okay, that's fine. You can turn your creatures sideways, and Wijaya obliges by turning them all sideways. Now here's 4 mana. So what do we have here? So this is a War Leader's Helix.
Okay, War Leader's Helix. Oh, wow. This is an excellent play. It's going to go ahead and first...
Well, it would have been an
excellent play had Vidianto not had a Brave the Elements.
So Banisher Priest was going to try to get killed by War Leader's Helix, but Brave the Elements, showing exactly how powerful it can be, giving protection from red or white. I'll guess red. Makes it so the Banisher Priest does not die. 21-2 is a life total here, and we don't know if Wijaya has another copy of Brave the Elements in his hand.
Could be 23-2. That was a gold spell.
Ooh, that's true. Missed it. They always do. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one.
Now, you could say that it looks bad that Bertorelli went for the Helix on the white creature as opposed to taking out the zombie. He would have had a guaranteed gain of 6. I actually really like how he played that there because had Vidianto... Like, if Vidianto still has the Brave, you're right that he wouldn't be able to Brave and save his guy, but then he'd be able to Brave to deal 6. Like, I don't think Bertorelli can beat the Brave, so it's best for him to take the greediest line.
Sure.
Which would be to kill the Banisher Priest, get your Reckoner, put Reckoner on zombie token.
Yeah. If everything's got to work out, you got to try to get there. Here's a Burning Tremor trigger, gonna add a little more devotion. So now here's an activation.
Yeah, he has potentially 5 mana. That's not enough to overload the mortars in his hand, though.
I actually like
one more. If he had a land, it would be disgusting.
I actually kind of like this play here too from Wijaya because Wijaya is with the Burning Tremissary's trigger on the stack. He's saying 1 second.
Oh, he's gonna Doomblade it.
Yeah, because I think he wants to Doomblade this. So the mana's already in the pool, and I think what he's gonna do is Doomblade this in response at some point.
In response
here.
If he Doomblades in response to the trigger, then Bertorelli never has a chance.
Yes.
And that's exactly right. I think a really good catch by Vidianto.
So now the mana is going to go into Bertorelli's pool, but the Nixos activation is not going to be anywhere near as good. It would be actually down mana. So
yes, so it would be very bad to activate.
So I don't think he's going to activate that. He's got a red and a green mana floating.
He can activate it to turn the mana into red mana if he wanted. That would be about it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound so good.
Yes, I mean, he's got an Ash in his hand. He might have to do it. And I think that's what's going to happen.
I actually think that is what's going to happen here. We'll see.
I don't know if he has a play.
Yeah, he shows him mortars, and that is going to do it. So Vidianto Wijaya is going to win this match over Philip Bertorelli. 2-0. White-black Aggro is going to move on to 3-0. So the Grand Prix Denver and multiple Open Series champion. Off to a nice start this weekend.